Whingers, moaners, complainers. Have you met those people who they're never happy, they never have enough, they wish they had, and they whinge, moan and complain about all the stuff that they don't have, versus what do you have? And I share that with you as I come outside. It's a beautiful day, there's fresh air and sunshine, there's snow on the mountain, and I'm just so grateful for my life. Now, that doesn't mean today hasn't got challenges, crappy things haven't happened, I could be sick or injured, there's a whole heap of things that happen in life. But if you focus on what you don't have or how bad your life is it possible that you go into a downward spiral and things get worse? Versus if you focus on what is going great, what is awesome, what you're thankful for. And there's a beautiful a story about the man who was whinging, moaning and complaining about having no shoes until he met the person that had no feet, and the person with no feet introduced him to the person that had no legs. And the interesting thing about that story is I'm sure you've met people or seen documentaries about or read books about people who've lost limbs or born without limbs, and they're still Olympic athletes, they still have a successful business, they're professional speakers, they write books, they're happy, positive people, even though they've lost their legs or their arms. Every day I'm thankful for the legs and the arms that I've got because I have two of each. People whinge, moan and complain about having fat legs, but what if you didn't have any? And I've got a beautiful story about that. One of my students at the Max International Colleges, she became a top-level exercise professional and she had no legs. Well, technically she did have legs, they just didn't work. They were just like floppy bits of skin on the end of her hips. And she was in a wheelchair. When she originally came to see us, she had to come up a flight of stairs. And she would just fold up her wheelchair, put her wheelchair between her legs, and she would dip herself up the stairs. And if anybody tried to help, it wasn't that she was rude or disrespectful. She would just say, "No, thank you, I'm great." And she would use that as a really great opportunity to get a workout. I'm working my triceps because I'm dipping up the stairs. I'm sharing that with you because I've met so many people that whinge, moan and complain about things that either are out of their control. So they moan about the weather, or they moan about the government, or they moan about other people. We have no control over what other people do. If you vote, then you have an opportunity to decide who's going to be in government. But a lot of people say, "Oh, but my vote doesn't count." Well, if you don't vote, of course it doesn't count. But then if you whinge, moan and complain about the government and you didn't vote, that would be a little bit silly, wouldn't it? So here's a great question, and it doesn't matter what you do, of course, and adults can do whatever they want to do. I just want our kids to grow up in a world where it's not normal to be a whinger, moaner and complainer. I would love our kids to really appreciate the beautiful things in life and focus on the great things rather than the ugly things. So a lot of kids they whinge, moan and complain now because they don't have a phone, or they don't have the latest PlayStation, or they don't have the latest thing that everybody else has got. But what about I've got food to eat every night, or I've got a bed to sleep in, or I've got a roof over my head, or I've got parents? There's a lot of kids that don't have parents. Could we be thankful for the things that we take for granted? And that's probably my very personal question, because I think we take a lot of great things for granted. One of the things that my family taught me at a very young age, my father was brought up in communist Romania, my mother was brought up in Nazi Germany, my father ended up in Auschwitz concentration camp as a political prisoner. My parents saw some of the ugliest, most horrible things in the world. They were the first on the boat as refugees to come to Australia after the Second World War. And they taught me, from as long as I can remember, be appreciative of the country that you live in. If you've got police, and you've got hospitals, and you've got roads, and you've got a tax system, and you've got a government that doesn't try to lock you up for talking to the person next to you. And my father shared that with me, that in communist Romania, if there was two people talking to each other on the street, they would often get arrested because the government thought they were conspiring against them. So I was taught at a very young age to appreciate my country, to appreciate the things that most people take for granted. And I'm sharing that because we have a lot of miserable, grumpy people in the world, yeah? We have a lot of depression, and depression seems to be getting worse and worse. We have now kids in high school where half of the high school, the kids are on some kind of antidepressant, mind-altering drug because they're not happy. Is it possible that we're unhappy because we focus on ugly, we focus on what we don't have, we focus on the negative rather than focusing on the positive? So I'll give you some simple examples. People complain about the traffic, for example. Imagine if you woke up, you lived in a city and there were no cars on the road on a magical day Monday morning. You'd think there was something really weird going on. I'm thankful for cars on the road because it means that things are happening. People are going places, doing stuff, buying things. Commercialism is happening. The world is moving along. So I'm grateful for cars on the road rather than complaining about them. People complain about the weather. I have no control over the weather. And where you live where I do, or if you live where I do, there's snow and wind and tornadoes and hot and cold, and it's a really awesome place to live when it comes to weather. I never complain about the weather because today's a beautiful sunny day. Yesterday was pouring rain and windy. It changes, but I have no control over it. So I wouldn't whinge, moan and complain about it. If I'm sick, I never whinge and moan about being sick, and I very rarely get sick. But when I do, it makes me appreciate the days that I'm healthy. It makes me appreciate the fact that I've got a healthy, fit, strong body. It also makes my brain think, because okay, why did I get sick? I don't ever go to the doctor and go, I'm sick and have a pill. My headspace is always, there's a reason I got sick. There's a reason I've got a sore throat or a runny nose or a headache or something's happened to me. I need to find out why that happened so it doesn't happen again. If I get an injury, I'm always really grateful for the injury. Now, I don't like being injured, but if I am injured, I can't change it. So now I'm thankful for the fact that there are times in my life where I'm not injured. I'm thankful for when I will be back after my injury. I'm thankful that I have to think differently when I'm injured because I never stop exercising. So I have to think differently about how I'm going to stay fit, stay strong, even though I've got an injury. It makes my brain work better. And that's my very personal question. How would we get better, stronger, wiser, tougher, more mentally strong if we didn't have any challenges? So shouldn't we be thankful for challenges rather than being annoyed about them? Shouldn't we focus on the positive of all the terrible things that happen in the world rather than the negative? And there's just some things we can't control. So one of the big things, of course, is when Mother Nature goes crazy. Tornadoes, hurricanes, bushfires, floods. I've lived in Australia most of my life where floods and droughts and bushfires are just a normal part of life. And they're horrible when they happen, and sometimes people die and animals die, and it's horrible. But if you focus on that, you could go into a downward spiral and be miserable. I focus on what happens to humanity. It seems to bring out, yes, the worst in some people, but it certainly brings out the best in other people. When there's a flood or a drought or a hurricane or something terrible happens, it's really beautiful to watch how human nature pulls together to help other humans. And that's something that I focus on rather than, isn't it terrible that we had a bushfire? Isn't it terrible that we had a drought? I want to be tough, strong, wise. I want to keep getting better. How about you? I don't want a reputation of being a person who whinges and moans and complains about what I don't have. I want to be thankful and grateful for what I do have. And it's interesting because as an old lady, I've been very privileged. I've had a lot of stuff and I've been a lot of places and I've made a lot of money and I've owned beautiful cars and beautiful homes and beautiful clothes, and I'm not bragging, I'm just sharing that I've had a very awesome life. But I've also had some really crappy, terrible, horrible things happen to me. Now I can wake up in the morning and focus on the terrible, crappy, horrible things, or I can be really grateful for my fantastic life. It's a choice. They are called rose-coloured glasses for a reason, and because my nickname is Rowie and people call me Ro, I like having Ro-coloured glasses. I love focusing on the positive rather than the negative. I love having the reputation. People don't ask me how I am. They just say, I already know how you are. You're always awesome. I love that reputation because I don't want to be known as the person that whinges, moans and complains. We've all met people that light up a room when they walk in, and we've all met people that light up a room when they walk out. There's some people where they walk out of a room and all of a sudden the lights come back on and the oxygen is brought back into the room because they are oxygen suckers, literally. I don't want that reputation. How about you? I want to be known as the person that's happy, positive, solution-finding, optimistic, and loves my life. And the reason for that, of course, is I can't change adults. But I really want our kids to know that they don't have to be miserable. They don't have to focus on the ugly things. They don't have to be pessimists, and they don't have to look for problems. They can be solution finders. And how would our kids know that if they don't get that from somebody? Now, I've met too many parents, teachers and coaches and bosses who are negative, pessimistic, grumpy people, and I think it's really sad. I can't do anything about that. People are going to do what they're going to do, but I don't want to be that person. How about you? So do you focus on what you haven't got or what you have got? Do you focus on your fat legs or that you've got legs? Do you focus on, I wish I could go here, or do you focus on where you are now? Do you focus on, I wish my life was different, or do you focus on making it different, making it better, becoming the person that can? And last but not least, how can you possibly do that if you're not weak, or if you are weak and if you're unfit and if you're frail? That's one of my driving forces for being fit, strong, healthy, lean, energetic, is so that I can do all the things that I want to do mentally and physically. And how can I cope with anything if I'm physically or mentally weak? So I get puffed multiple times throughout the day so that my heart and lungs are strong. I lift heavy things once, maybe twice a week, so that I've got strong muscles and bones. Both of those give me a strong brain, because obviously if you've got strong muscles and strong bones, they send messages back to your brain for your brain to be stronger. I want to be a tough, positive, optimistic solution finder. How about you? So get puffed, lift heavy, overcome challenges, be the person that you want to be. And if you want to be grumpy, miserable and negative, that of course is a choice. If you want to be the living example for our future adults, that you don't have to focus on the negative, you can focus on the positive, then join me by living your life to the max. Super duper doo, how are you? Living my life to the max. Check out.